Hello everyone. By the time this is broadcast, it will be 11 weeks since we closed the office and moved our staff and operations to home working. Spring 2020 has passed in a flurry of emergency responses, policy shifts and Zoom meetings. The world has been full of ambiguity and complexity. And as leaders, we're simultaneously having to make rapid decisions in the face of that complex and incomplete data, whilst at the same time adjusting to a shrunken and static working and home environment. The scale and speed of change and the uncertainty that it generates has left me feeling at times disorientated and sometimes emotional. For a self-avowed control freak who gets a huge amount of self-worth from my work and going to it, and who enjoys the energy that spontaneous interaction brings, it's been a challenging time. And I've learned an enormous amount about my own leadership and about the organisations that I play a leadership role in: Paul Hamlyn Foundation, East London Dance and Clore Leadership. As leaders, we do need to see the scale of the challenge. It sounds easy to say, but I've been surprised by how many conversations I'm having that still assume we will be out of this and back to normal. I don't think that's the reality, especially for the cultural sector. Seeing that we're in a crisis state enables or even requires us both to be able to act quickly, making decisions about what needs to be done now, and to be able to start to explore the impact for the future. Our job as leaders is to hold this balance and to make sure our focus is, note to self, not on getting in the way on the day-to-day detail, because it's more comfortable there, let's be honest, than doing the heavy lifting in the ambiguity space. We need to reveal that we're human and finding it hard whilst maintaining the confidence of our teams. And we need to look after ourselves whilst giving our very best to the organisations we lead. To hold such a balance is not easy, and I'm offering 3 ways through that might be useful for you. They were for me. Firstly, I found it really helpful to go right back to basics and focus on our purpose. Whilst the financial implications are absolutely crucial, making time to check in with your vision and mission feels critical, especially since the context is changing so radically. How is your work relevant? Why does it matter what you do? Should you be addressing emerging needs differently, and what might you need to stop? Getting this right helps to prioritise. It helps to inform decisions on the finances and to mobilise when the time is right on the fundraising efforts. And it helps us guard against retreating, asking ourselves, what do you want to hold on to? What innovations are creating a glimmer of light at the moment? As another Clore fellow, Andrew Missingham, said in a recent blog, the organisations with the best chance of thriving will be the ones that not only can adapt, but also the ones that act and change right now in the midst of the deepest uncertainty. Do we need all that space? Can we actually become a more inclusive organisation as a result of a shift online? What partners should we continue to work with? What are audiences, old and new, telling us about what they value most about what we do? The day after I sent everyone home to work in March and closed the office, I reached out instinctively and urgently to my cohort of Clore Fellows, the 20 or so people from across the cultural ecology that some 15 years ago had been at the start of my own leadership exploration. As the world spun out of control and the scale of the emergency response that was needed started to reveal itself, connection felt vital, and that's my second point. It's a cliche that it's lonely at the top, but all over the UK, and you don't need me to tell you this, cultural leaders have been making really tough decisions. From my point of view, the cultural sector needs to connect and come together now more than ever to support individual leaders and to fight together for what we believe in and what we need. Thankfully, I'm seeing many great examples of this taking shape, from the We Shall Not Alliance, led by disabled people working across the UK's creative industries, to the Artist Support Pledge. Let's make sure these don't fade away after the first flush of enthusiasm. And as part of this connectivity, I think there's a real need to think about our people and how we connect and support to them as well. One of the things I'd like to think I do naturally as a leader is to model openness. It's a quality that supports trust and collaboration, and I've found that these have been essential attributes in responding to the crisis. I'm sure we can all think of really excellent examples of leaders doing this, as well as some truly atrocious ones recently. For me, it's been all about upping our internal and external communications on day one, and we've continued to innovate in that space. We've flexed creatively in response to feedback, hearing that people need space to make sense of what's happening, and recognition that one size definitely doesn't work for everyone. And I've been really visible, more than I usually would be. The message from me hasn't been that everything is fine. It's been that it will be difficult, but that we will get through. This doesn't mean we have to be heroic as leaders. One of my conversations recently was with someone who was completely exhausted from trying to hold everything for her organisation and be brave. And I'm not sure that's quite the right reflex. All that display of exhausted bravery was actually achieving was making her colleagues feel extremely anxious. Better by far to be clear about what you do know and what actions are being taken, and equally clear about what you don't know and what might need to change. In my experience, you build more trust that way. It's not about shiny comms. It's about being human and remembering that your staff and your service users, your audiences are human too. Ambiguity can feel frustrating and even threatening for your teams. So we need that clear sense of purpose and communication about where we're heading, whilst acknowledging that the path may be a bit wavy. So, my last thought is about us as people. If we aren't trying to be too much like heroes, we also need to recognise there's a lot on our shoulders. We all need to do more to find the tools inside of us to cope when things aren't going smoothly. Bounce back ability, Keith Merrin, also from my Clore cohort from Sunderland Culture, used to say. It will be different for everyone, but everyone has tools they can use. Exercise, meditation, friendship, nature, bakery. Use this time to really think about how to build your resilience knowingly and deliberately. You need to be prepared to make mistakes and correct as you go. This kind of iterative testing and adapting leadership requires confidence and strength in equal measure. You need to build in pause points to inform decisions so adjustments can be made. And you need to think critically about what voices are feeding in so you don't succumb to groupthink. And you need to challenge any behaviour in yourself that suggests that every decision needs to go through you. Your job here, my job here, is to set the priorities for your response and then empower your teams to identify solutions. All of this is about self-protection as well as organisational strength. I feel there's a chance to create a shared mandate for change at the moment, and a new commitment to raise the living standards of all citizens by investing in social infrastructure and public services, to reaffirm the role of arts and culture as central to our societal and individual well-being. So the world needs leaders to help us now, diverse leaders with agile and creative thoughts about how to build on the change we're seeing, who see the possibility in new models and don't hunker down waiting for a return to what's worked previously, who have the skills to hold the balance. Thanks for listening. Hope to see you soon.